Welcome, everybody. I want to introduce Tim Burkett, who's joining us today. Tim began his spiritual journey in 1964 with Suzuki Roshi, and he was later ordained as a Zen priest by Katagiri Roshi at the Minnesota Zen Center. For decades, he served as guiding teacher of the Minnesota Zen Meditation Center, training the next generation of Zen leaders. And we're just really happy to have Tim here today because it seems like there's a lot of connections between him and Stuart, our beloved Taoist teacher who passed recently, as you know, most likely. So yeah, he and Stuart shared two of the same great Buddhist teachers, Hsuan Hua in California and Katagiri Roshi in Minnesota. So their paths ran parallel and intersected, and we're really thrilled to carry forward this living thread of Katagiri's lineage here at Sanctuary of Tao with Tim Burkett being here. So just a little bit more about Tim. He was a psychologist, and he helped found the People's Center, the People's Incorporated. It's a mental health service and organization in Minnesota. And he talks a lot about Taoism these days. He says that Zen is half Buddhist, half Taoist. Buddhism is the father and Taoism is the mother. And so in that spirit, he's bringing his insights to us with the launch of this new 6-part series, The Way of the Butterfly. So he's going to be drawing from Stephen Mitchell's second book of the Tao and explore the playful wisdom of Taoist sage Zhuangzi, a figure Stuart also lectured on. So we're going to be diving into that today with Tim. So please welcome me in joining the author of Enlightenment is an Accident and the former guiding teacher of the Minnesota Zen Center, Tim Burkett.
Thank you, Lily. Thank you. I thought we'd start by sitting just for a couple minutes, okay? So let's just sit quietly with our breath, with our body, with our heart mind, just for a couple minutes. Thank you again for the introduction. I don't have to say much about myself, but I did I was introduced to Taoism by a guy named Alan Watts in about 19, this shows how old I am. I wasn't just in diapers when I was introduced by Alan Watts to Taoism, probably about 1965. And I've given many talks at Zen Center talking about how Taoism and Buddhism come together to create Zen. But I have never given 21 talks on Zhuangzi like Stuart has. I just read about that. Wow. Oh. And they're recorded, so hope you'll listen to those. So I'm going to start. Patrick, if you would share screen what I'm going to be talking about today, that would be good. Okay, thank you. So I'm going to talk about a series of stanzas number 3 and then number 6, and probably 20 minutes on each. First one is very short. The great Tao cannot be named. It is rooted in not knowing. This is called inner radiance. Take from it, it is never depleted. It is the inexhaustible treasury. The great Tao cannot be named. And although it cannot be named, the metaphor that Zhuangzi uses is the valley of the universe. It's the valley of the universe. Pitch blackness from which all light emanates. The yin from which all yang emanates. In Zen, we call that the Buddha nature. The Buddha womb, the dark, warm, nurturing, supportive womb from which all life comes. Pretty cool, pretty wonderful. But it's beyond the limitations of our thinking. Thoughts congeal to create a kind of artificial light, to hold us back from going into the deep darkness. The abyss that we go into scares us as we go into that darkness. So we want to go back to the artificial light in our little chatterbox cafe that I'm always talking about. Not realizing that within this darkness, if we go all the way into it, is where our still nature abides. The valley of the universe from which all life emanates. In wonderful harmony and synchronicity. So in times like this that we're going through in our country, I've never gone through a time like this, and you guys are younger than me, so you haven't either. When our democracy is falling apart, when it seems like we're moving into autocracy and authoritarianism and real dividedness, we tend to depend more on the artificial light within our thinking. We go over and over what's wrong, what worries us, what our fears are, and they get bigger and bigger and bigger. And we ache for a stable world. But as the Taoist sages continually remind us, there isn't one. Everything and everyone is always in flux. Even this democracy that we've had for 250 years is always in flux. Our relationships, our health, the political climate. The Tao is metaphor for the, second metaphor for the Tao is it's a great ocean, constantly changing with the tides and the wind. And within us at this time in our lives, for so many of us, there's a collision between the uncertainty that we feel and a longing for something deeper and more sustaining. And that collision between the two creates a lot of suffering and anxiety, and it shackles us. And we always want more electric lights on instead of just tuning into the quiet stillness within our deepest part, our deepest part. Rumi says, if everything around seems dark, look again. You may be the light. If everything around seems dark, Look again, you may be the light. Don't underrate your ability to radically shift artificial light to the valley of the universe, which continually emanates out of its darkness a natural and healing light. That's the Tao, continually emanating a natural and healing light. Lao Tzu says, mystery and its manifestations arise from the same source. This source is called darkness. Darkness within darkness, the gateway to all understanding. So if we can look within, ignoring the darkness won't make it disappear, but if we can look within, look more deeply, we don't need to be so attached to our own little identity. If I get too attached to my own little identity, I can't even be a Zen or Taoist teacher because I'm trying to be a good Zen or Taoist teacher. But all I need to do is sink into the valley of the universe, and I'm always being supported. It's possible for each of us to move beyond our fragile, small identity to, as what Lao Tzu says, the sage is not self-absorbed, yet they see everything. They are in harmony with all life. I've talked before about how when I was a little boy, I used to stay at my grandmother's, and she lived by the ocean. And it was so dark there at night, not like where I grew up, so dark. And I slept in my bed, in her bed. She had a great big bed. And it was scary. So much darkness, not even a street light. And as it rose with me, I'd feel kind of overwhelmed. And I'd go over close to my grandma and just feel her warm body. And I felt fear moving through my little body. And as I would just stay there with her and go close to her, it would dissolve and then come back and dissolve again. After a while, I no longer feared the dark, but it took a couple of years. So how long will it take you? How long is it taking you to move beyond your indulgence in the artificial light which you've created within your chatterbox cafe? How long will it take you to no longer fear the dark and go all the way in? You may want the support of a spiritual friend. You may want the support of a group, as in the sanctuary of the Tao. Right in the middle of darkness, the Taoist sages tell us, we're in harmony with the center of all life. We are, right in the middle of darkness. We're in harmony with the center of all life. The great Tao cannot be named. As soon as we believe in the name as more than a metaphor, then we get caught by an ism. Catholicism, Protestantism, Buddhism, Taoism, Hinduism, Muslimism. But as soon as we get caught by an ism, that ism becomes a wasm. Most religion is received from the past. The Bible, the Tao Te Ching, the Buddhist sutras, the Hindu scriptures. But the womb of the past is dried up. The womb of now is what's opening. The womb of now is wet and fecund, fertile. The valley is continually alive with the creations coming from our deepest center. We're pretty lucky. We're pretty lucky. The great Tao cannot be named. It is rooted in not knowing. The great Tao cannot be named. It is rooted in not knowing. Dogen, the Zen teacher, says, take the backward step and turn your light inward. This is called inner radiance. This is called inner radiance. The great Tao cannot be named. It's rooted in not knowing. This is called inner radiance. The energy to do something, to get somewhere, to accomplish something, can we turn that energy inward? Even the drive to be better meditators? Can we just turn that inward and not try to do anything but just go deep inside, deep through the darkness to open up to our womby nature, which is continually emanating unnatural light, unnatural light. In light there is darkness. Darkness there is light, says Shi Tao, the famous Zen master. Take from it. It is never depleted, says Zhuangzi. Take from it. It is never depleted. It is the inexhaustible treasury. Take from it. It is never depleted. Never depleted. We may get depleted, but when we get depleted, can we go deep inside? Can we breathe deeply and go all the way in so that that treasure just emanates from our center, which is not our center, but it's the center. It doesn't know it's a center, though. It doesn't know. It doesn't know a metaphor of the valley of the universe. It just laughs at that because it's before we name. When we name, we encapsulate and we cut off. We need to name, but this is prior to naming. This is deeper than naming, in the great darkness. This is called inner radiance, especially in these times. We need to do that. How are you going to get through this? How are you going to get through this experience that we're having with a government that wants to hurt us and hurt our friends? How are we going to do that? This is a time when we can just go deeply within and feel that radiance just emanating. Okay, now I'm going to do the second, move on to the second one. Maybe, Patrick, you'll put the second one up again. The master is not trapped in opposites. Their this is also of that. They see that life becomes death and death becomes light. That right has a kernel of wrong within it, and wrong a kernel of right. The master doesn't aim for success, doesn't avoid failure, doesn't try to follow the Tao. The master soars past the sun and the moon, tucks the universe under their arm. They're content with not knowing. When we find the pivot of the Tao, we find ourselves at the center of the circle. And here we sit, serene, while yes and no keep chasing each other around the circumference endlessly. The master is not trapped in opposites. Their this is also of that. Yin-yang, yin-yang, yin-yang as we often mispronounce it, not fixed and static, ever-changing, your natural fluidity, everything unfolding within everything else. As Dogen says, whole being Buddha nature. When our heart-mind is open, the valley of the universe is blooming with flowers and leaves and plants and trees. When our heart-mind is open, we don't need to shut down our emotion. Great emotion can pass through us like waves rolling through the sea. We can let them pass along the surface. Underneath the waves, there's great calmness, great calmness. The master is not trapped in opposites. Their this is also of that. Resilience arises from a heart that's open, beyond the either or darkness or light, this or that. They see that life becomes death, and death becomes life. That right has a kernel of wrong within it, and wrong a kernel of right. The Diamond Sutra says, awaken to the mind that does not fixate anywhere. It's our big mind. It's what my teacher Suzuki Roshi called our big mind. The mind that Walt Whitman said contains multitudes, lots of competing parts and emotions. But we can let the light into the dark and vice versa, so they don't need to compete anymore. Here's a poem by Rilke. You, darkness, that I come from, out of which all things come, I love you more than all the fires that fence in the world, for the fire makes a circle of light for everyone, and no one knows, no one outside learns of you. But the darkness pulls in everything, shapes and fires, animals and myself. How easily it gathers and powers in people. It is possible a great energy is moving near us. I have faith in the light. How easily it gathers and powers people. It is possible to have a great energy and feel it's moving near us. I have faith in the light. So that's the journey that we make in our spiritual practice into pitch blackness. Those rejected parts, those repressed ideas, those instincts, those impulses, those difficult memories, those traumatic memories, those embarrassing fears, those large and small humiliations. Fear buries these negative emotions deep inside. But those rejected parts don't vanish. They become a shadow personality that haunts us. But each rejected aspect carries a seed of wisdom. It is waiting to show us something important, to see things we don't want to see, to accept the unacceptable, to embrace the deplorable. We can acknowledge our repressed anger and traumatic memories and follow each emotionally tinged thought all the way to its roots in the valley of the universe, in the Tao. It takes courage to feel with our whole body and mind. But we can experience an abiding happiness that emanates from this valley. When we limit the expression of one side of our emotional spectrum, the other side is equally limited. The wisdom that opens up to and passes through the shadow gives us empathy and compassion. We accept our own frailties, we accept other people's frailties, and our compassion is quite natural. It's not based on the artificial light of we need to be good or we should be compassionate. It's more primal than that, more primary than that, more vivacious than that. The master is not trapped in opposites. Their this is also a that. They see that life becomes death and death becomes life, that right has a kernel of wrong within it and wrong a kernel of right. The master doesn't aim for success, doesn't avoid failure, doesn't try to follow the Tao. The master soars past the sun and the moon, tucks the universe under their arm. They are content with not knowing and rest on the pivot of the Tao. The darkness of don't know mind, the valley of the universe, is where we can really rest. We can really find our composure. We can really find our spaciousness. We can really find our security. And our life works effortlessly as we go into the valley, as we go into don't know mind. We no longer feel cut off. We no longer feel caught by boundaries that separate us and cut us off. They drop away. And here is a poem by Juan Ramon Jimenez. I have a feeling that my boat has struck down here in the depths against a great thing, and nothing happens. Nothing. Silence, waves, nothing happens. Or has everything happened? And are we standing now quietly in the new life? How about instead of a religion from the past, a new life? How about a new expression of our very own light emanating from darkness, emanating from the valley of the universe, the Mother Tao? Dogen says, the Zen teacher Dogen, do not doubt the true dragon. Maybe it's possible as an emanation of the Tao for us to have a life of riding on dragons, leaping from our small little self who's worried and concerned to the big self, to the leaping from the pivot of no-thingness. Here's Rumi again. I searched for God and found only myself. I searched for myself and found only God. Here's Zhuangzi again. When we find the pivot of the Tao, we find ourselves at the center of the circle, and here we sit, serene, while yes and no keep chasing each other around the circumference endlessly. And here we sit serene. Let's just sit serenely together right now. Not yesterday or tomorrow, but just right now. And let yes and no do whatever they want to do, chasing around each other endlessly. Returning to the pivot of the Tao, returning to our own treasure. My teacher said to me once, you have a deep treasure within you. Don't let anyone take it from you. Someone may try to take it from you. Because I was trying to get stuff. I was trying to get mostly spiritual stuff. Even at my young age, I didn't care that much about material stuff, but I was trying to get spiritual stuff. And I was doing all kinds of things, all kinds of spiritual exercises. And he said, you have a great treasure within you. A great treasure. Someone may try to take it from you. Don't let anybody take it from you. Instead, we can settle into the womb, to our Buddha womb, to the Tao itself, and leap from the pivot of no-thingness. Yes and no keep chasing each other around their circumference endlessly, to a finish line that doesn't exist. Yes is you, no is you, yes, no, maybe so is you. The whole circumference, with its colored banners, with its pom-pom girls, and cheerleaders and frenzied crowd. That's you. Even the activity within your chatterbox cafe, that's you. Don't need to kick anything out. It's all an emanation of this wonderful stillness that's at the center of your being. And that's what I want to say today. And I see I didn't spend as much time as I expected, so I'll be glad to take questions or comments from anyone.
I just want to say thank you, Tim. I always enjoy hearing you talk about Taoism.
Let's see, who's that? Okay, that was David. Was David?
Yes.
Oh, okay. You're very welcome, David.
I have a quick question. My curiosity is getting the better of me. Can you unpack or contextualize this a bit with the name of this talk was The Way of the Butterfly? So I would love to
hear well, that's the name of my series of talks.
The name of your series?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I put that in because maybe Zhuangzi's most famous story is about a butterfly. And I'm going to talk about that one of my other talks. But I'll talk about it again now. Why not? Zhuangzi wakes up in the morning and he says, he writes, last night I dreamed I was a butterfly, flitting from flower to flower and plant to plant. Or am I now dreaming I am a butterfly, saying this out of my butterfly mouth? So, and then he goes on and talks about that. He talks about how everything is interpenetrating everything else. Everything is changing into everything else, and how we don't have to get caught by some idea of who we are or who we should be, because even in a situation that's as hard as this one politically for us, everything is fluid, and everything supports everything else. Within the darkness, within our chatterbox cafe, we divide everything up and we want to fight. But when the Valley of the Universe, there's no need to fight. We feel connected. We feel, Dogen said, we feel intimate with all life. We have a feeling of intimacy with all life. But that that means we have to go in. We have to go down and through any of the stuck crud that's hanging us up. Go all the way through it, not through talking about it, but just through being with it, through breathing through it, through meditating through it.
It's so hard to get over the impulse to turn on the electric light, as you say. I guess it's because I've been so used to doing that for 70 years or so. What's the way to let yourself rest in the darkness? Is it just Zen? Is that how you go about it?
Well, you have to have a deep aspiration.
Yeah.
And you do have a deep aspiration.
And it's still hard.
And through your aspiration becomes discipline, but it's not this hard discipline. You're a disciple of the Tao, a disciple of Buddha. You want to emanate this. So you're willing to put aside all this stuff. I mean, I talk about electric lights, but now, geez, I watch my grandsons with their iPhones and with their kids now, boy, triple electric lights now. But they don't have the aspiration. If you have the aspiration, you become a disciple of Buddha, a disciple of the Tao, a disciple of the wanting to go in, wanting to go deep, and then the discipline isn't that hard.
It's even having the discipline, it's hard to overcome the
It is.
convenience.
It is.
It's the distraction. The distraction is easier than deep thinking.
It is. But you have to, it takes practice and patience and persistence. And as I say, I probably never said this to you, Stephen. If I can do it, you can do it.
Well, not so sure, but
well, I'm sure about it.
Okay, good. Thanks for
It
the
also
voice.
takes a little bit of courage,
Yeah.
because any kind of meditative process you do, you have to pass through a lot of crud that you don't like, but you can pass through it. You can let it be and pass through it. If it doesn't want to go, we always say let it go. Often it doesn't want to go, but then you just let it be. You just let it be. You breathe. And you call on your great kindness, even though you don't know you have a great kindness. You do, because you're an emanation of the valley of the universe. You have a great kindness. You feel connected at your base, whether you know it or not. This kind of we take on. In my last class, I was teaching, someone said, well, you have to take this on faith. In a way, you do, but it's not faith in something. It's faith in the process. It's faith in the process and a willingness to go into it and do it, and go into it and do it. And even if your little identity is saying, oh, I'm not getting anywhere. Oh, get nowhere then. Go deeply into nowhere. Deeply into nowhere.
Well, yeah, thanks, Tim. I've heard it before, but I need to keep hearing it.
Well, sure. That's why there's a teaching. That's why there's a mentor or a teacher. That's why Stuart was around, and that's why I'm around for a while more. I don't know how much more, but could be a while, or could not be. There'll always be some somebody. If you're devoted, you'll always find a teacher. You'll always find a mentor. You just will. You just will.
Thank you so much. And I have a comment here from Dave Capco.
Sure.
Dave said, you did a great job centering us. I like the concept of valley. A valley requires higher land around it. It usually has water in the valley, like a lake or a river. It's very great fertile soil. It is yin, even in the Bagua.
Well, that's wonderful. And of course, that's Zhuangzi's term. And that's one reason that have so much affection for Taoism, and they at least the translations I read come up with these really original terms. So it's not just naming, it's moving beyond the name to something that brings us back to feeling connected.
Yeah, I really like that metaphor of the valley too, because it's like the mountain. It reminds me of like that energy of striving and trying to get someplace. But the valley sounds like you're describing just sort of sinking into what is and then finding the Tao there. I really like that in your email you said like coming out of striving. And my question is, you said that we need to be persistent and we want, to keep waking up, to keep coming back to this moment and coming out of the, electricity of the mind and into the darkness. And I'm just wondering, like, sometimes it feels like maybe the small self is trying to do that. And it's like, oh, I have to like keep working and keep like sort of, like for me, it's a lot of these like voices, of like self, like fear and shame and things like that are kind of, what feel like they take me away from the present.
So easily we get hypnotized by the electric light, to use my metaphor for today. And then we think that somehow if we turn the electric light up more, with more striving, with more hours of sitting, we'll go into this darkness in which natural light emanates. But it's always available to us, and we just need to know when we're kidding ourselves, because trying to get more is not part of this, or trying to get deeper is not part of this. The depth comes itself from us just going inside. But what you talked about, Lily, happens to so many people. It's like, I need to discipline myself more. I need to get back on track. But you're already on track. Just be with what is. Be kind to what is, and settle into to whatever is going on, and then you feel a natural light emanating from the darkness. And that takes some faith, but also it takes not getting hypnotized by the artificial light. It's anything to try to get something. Well, we don't need to get anything. It's all here. We don't need to be more disciplined. It's all here. We don't need to get this or get that. It's all here. But at the same time, we do need to be a disciple of this depth. If we become a disciple, we don't need discipline. We're a disciple. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you so much.
A real disciple doesn't need discipline. If you think about Jesus' first disciple, if you think about Buddha's first disciple, they didn't need discipline. Ananda didn't need discipline in Buddha's case. But people thought, oh, they're so disciplined. Oh, they're so disciplined. No, they were just yearning. They were just focusing on what is right here and yearning to open up to it. And that was the discipline.
It's so beautiful. Devin had another question in the chat. Did you want to unmute Devin and say that, or?
Yeah, I'm basically looking to explore and unpack the relationship between this hypnotic digital realm and that of pure unchanged nature. And I'm curious about how the practice of Taoism, or just presence in general, interfaces with this digital realm. Like, can we wrap our relationship with the
the digital realm is an emanation of the Valley of the Universe. Sure it is.
Exactly, yeah.
Sure it is. Let's appreciate it. Boy, look what I can do with you guys right now. I could never do that 5 years ago. And yet it's almost seems like it's three-dimensional sometimes. It's not, but it seems pretty good. Aside from rustling papers, it seems pretty good. So yeah, but we get so consumed by the digital that we forget it too is an emanation of a great stillness within us, a great dark stillness that the monkey mind can never get, that we can be digital and digital and digital and have AI do. AI can never get this. AI can never get this. AI probably tells it, if you go on ChatGPT, it'll tell you all about Zen and Taoism. It's getting smarter and smarter. I'm a little bit, I do Gemini AI. Gemini AI is getting about as smart as me, if not smarter than about Buddhism and Zen. Well, okay, but what about the stillness that's right here, that's alive and part of our basic humanness, but not humanness in contrast to animalness, because in the valley of the universe, humans and animals and plants and flowers all emanate. All emanate. This is not Confucian humanism. Lao Tzu and Zhuangzi were not that into Confucian humanism because it divided humans from everybody else and everything else. So within this valley of the universe, yeah, digital, 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 AI, 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 pretty cool. And yet, it's all an emanation of some wonderful energy of being.
Hey, Tim,
Yeah.
I think AI can accumulate knowledge, but it lacks wisdom.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah. AI can accumulate knowledge and it lacks wisdom. But this is non-dual wisdom. That's what it lacks, non-dual. Both Taoism and Buddhism focus on non-dual wisdom. That's not the wisdom that I've got, that Tim has. That's a wisdom before Tim feels disconnected from you guys. As long as Tim feels like he's not separate from you, there's a possibility for wisdom to come up. As soon as he cuts off just a little bit, then that's dualistic wisdom. But non-dual wisdom emanates in duality. It emanates in social media, in chat GPT, and in human relationships. But the real wisdom is non-dual, and that's the darkness of the valley of the universe. And that's where we can learn to live, because that's our natural way of living before we divide things up. And you have to kind of take that on faith, but just do it. Do it.
I just want to comment on something you said about faith. I don't have a lot of faith in faith, but I heard another great teacher say something about faith that I really liked, which was that he described faith as faith in the moment, as opposed to faith in something objective or a teacher or creed or something or other. So I like that. That was another great Zen teacher.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Maybe trust is a better word than faith, because trust in the process is that, again, if I can do this, you can. If Stuart can do this, you can. Trust in the process, in your own process.
I was wondering, Stuart would give the Taoist metaphor of like push the boat, drift with the current. And I'm wondering, is like pushing the boat, sometimes I wonder if that's like the part of us, sort of the ego mind, the egoic functioning, its job being to like sort of maybe how do we get back towards facing, like towards surrender or towards the, like having the boundaries with things like AI or technology or our thoughts or whatever, like that the egoic mind has some work to do to like bring us back to connection. That's the push the boat, and then it needs to let go. And I don't know, I was just wondering if you have any thoughts.
I think that's good. I mean, the aspiration to live from this place of stillness takes a lot of effort, and so the ego has to be invested in it, or that's part of the trust. The ego has to really be invested if the ego is really invested, then the trust in the process just opens to this wonderful sense of connectedness and joy that emanates from that. But yes, sometimes we do need to push the boat. So that's becoming a disciple of this truth, of this non-dual sense of connectedness. We're a disciple of it. We don't know it, but if we hang around enough with it, we get to know it. We get to know it. It becomes second nature, and then the boat just floats on its own. It's a good metaphor. Thank you.
Thank you. And then at a certain point, because it seems like it's kind of a process of coming back, does that process ever become more like a natural state of like living from that larger self?
Well, that's what I've been talking about, is that this is our natural way of being. This isn't something I read. I've read lots of books, but this isn't something I read about. This is our natural way of being, just to be here. Just to be here, listening to each other, supporting each other, disagreeing with each other, loving each other, without putting an extra head on top of our own. That's a Zen phrase, but it's similar to some phrases that Zhuangzi and Lao Tzu use. We're always putting an extra head on top of our own. I got to get somewhere. No, you don't need to get anywhere. It's natural just to live as you are, flaws and all. Your flaw is your opening. Your flaw is where you feel connected to someone. If you had everything together all the time, you'd be closed down. But your opening, your sense of connectedness, comes from your flaws.
Wow, that's so beautiful.
Lawrence and Vincent van Gogh, they're hanging out there together.
Starry Night.
Yeah.
Starry Night. I'm just wondering, going back to what you were saying just a moment or two ago about the ego, how do you involve the ego without getting trapped by the ego or being fixated on the ego in this process?
You keep it simple. You keep it simple. And anytime it gets complicated, you come back to just the simplicity of your commitment. You keep it simple. And people now, these days, I don't know, it sounds like I'm an old codger, I guess I am. They have trouble simplifying their lives. You can never do this if you get too involved in all this electrical current outside.
Yeah.
All these different strobe lights and stuff. You just have to keep it simple. And if ego can settle down enough to keep it simple, then it's very close to opening up to this natural way of being. Natural way of being.
What do you mean by keeping it simple, actually? What would that be?
What do I mean? I don't see, if I give you some concept, you'll try to. I don't know what I mean. I mean, keep it simple. Now, if Thoreau talked about his way of keeping it simple, Dogen talked about his way of keeping it simple, Katagiri talked about his way, Suzuki talked about his way. You find your own way to keep it simple. The things that distract you, that get you all involved in ego worries and concerns, you just don't do too many of those things. When they come on, you come back to just, now I'm going to do my meditation, now I'm going to do my running, now I'm going to eat my meal, and then eating your meal becomes your source of wisdom, just eating your meal, because you're non-dual. You just let the meal eat itself as you eat it. That's non-dual. You're simple. I move from eating my meal to going to the toilet. Fine, keep it simple. Keep it simple. Going to the toilet, maybe even turning on the TV and watching it for a little while. That's fine. Just keep it simple. Just keep it simple.
Go back to the moment, maybe?
Yeah. go to the moment, but don't get too greedy about I should be in the moment. So I'll tell you a story that I've told many times at Zen Center. So my friend in San Francisco, where when I was a young man and doing meditation at the Zen Center, wanted to go to Japan because we didn't do enough meditation at Zen Center. Who's heard me tell this story before? I know Margaret's heard me tell it. Probably Stephen. I don't know about Larry. You should have heard me tell it. Anyway, he wanted. Shikantaza means just to sit in meditation. He wanted more meditation. So he found just the right place to go to. And when he got there, it was tourist season. So they didn't have any more meditation than we did in San Francisco. Just 50 minutes twice a day. I think 40 minutes twice a day, plus some chanting. And instead they had him sweeping, they had him serving guests, they had him cleaning the floors, they had him preparing food, and he went to the teacher and he complained. And of course he didn't really complain like this, but I dramatize it. He said, you told me this would be Shikantaza, and look, I'm not even sitting any more than we did in San Francisco. And this is just not okay. What did you were dishonest with me. And the teacher said, oh, big misunderstanding. Understand just to. Shikan means just to. Understand just to. Just to sweep, just to eat meal, just to serve guests, just to. And whatever you do, just to. And so my friend went and did it. Oh, he could do that. He didn't have to grab it, doing more meditation. He could just do it. He could just be with it. So it felt pretty natural, and he was letting go of the electrical hypnosis in the Chatterbox Cafe, by just doing it. It was wonderful. Now I'm going to tell you part two, which does confuse people sometimes, but part two is that he did that for a couple of months, and then he walked in on the teacher when the teacher was sitting in his little enclave, his private enclave, and there was the teacher listening to the radio, eating, smoking a cigarette. Japanese men like to smoke, and I don't know, doing what? Reading the newspaper. And my friend said, what? I thought you told me just Shikan. And teacher said, oh, big misunderstanding. Understand Shikan. Shikan read paper, Shikan drink coffee, Shikan smoke. Very good. So take from that what you want, but this is all about keeping it simple so that we can be with whatever comes up, whether it's a cigarette or a cup of coffee. We learn how to keep it so simple that whatever happens, but that's a practice to simplify, an ongoing practice. And so many were, in these monastery was one thing, but these days we've got our job, we've got our health, we've got to work out, we've got our friendships, we're falling in love. Yikes! But we can still do that. If we're disciples of the Tao, we can do that. We can keep it simple. We can just to, whatever it is, we can do it.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Tim. This has been so wonderful. And I think we will be wrapping it up here because it's 2:00. And I just really, really appreciate you giving this talk. And it was exactly what I needed to hear today. It was incredible. And I'm so grateful for everybody being here. And I want to invite you, if you feel moved, to make a donation to Sanctuary of Tao, and no problem if not, whatever feels right to you. And also to let you know that Tim is available for mentorship. he does mentorship. Like Tim is my mentor. And I've been working with him for a while through the Zen Center. So I'm not sure how we will do the donation, if it would go to the Zen Center or to Tim, or how we will work that all out. But he is available for mentorship if anybody would like to meet one-on-one with him periodically. So just wanted to let you know that. And then, is there anything else? Any other announcements or anything before we wrap up?
In a month, the first Sunday in, let's see, what is it now? November. We'll do this again, and we'll do it an hour earlier.
Oh, yes, exactly. Sorry, thank you. I knew there was something I was missing. We're going to be meeting at 12 Central, so 1 hour earlier than we started today, and that will be the new time for this talk going forward. And then on the other times, on the other weeks, we'll be doing meditation during that time at 12 that we have been doing. And then next in November, we'll be starting a review session of Stuart's recordings and a discussion group with that. So that's kind of the plan.
Thanks, Tim. Thank you,
You're very
Tim.
welcome.
Yeah.
Wonderful to be with you all.
Thank
Have a
you
good
so
rest of
much.
your afternoon. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye.